Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual worship service of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Sunday worship service. As you can see, I am not in the sanctuary this morning. I am actually in a family retreat in Big Bear. And in fact, none of us are in the sanctuary this morning, which may seem disheartening because it's one more week where we can't be together. However, I'm taking encouragement from it because on a week when several of us were just out of town on family obligations, we can still put together and bring you a service. So now, with that in mind, and to help us enter the spirit of worship, let us turn our minds and our hearts to listen to our prelude from Barbara this morning. Good morning, Barbara.
Good morning. I am going to be playing a piece by a composer who's not known as well as he should be from 1922 by, this is Deodat de Severax, piece called The Fountain of Chopin. Whatever that means. I love the vagueness of it.
Thank you, Barbara. I love that ending. And welcome again to the Sunday service of Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are a liberal religious community bound together by shared principles that are drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature and science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you're new to UUism or to Summit and like to know more about us, we invite you to go to our website, summituuf.org. Click on the visitors button and fill out our online connection card. Someone will follow up with you. As we always do, we want to acknowledge that our physical fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land, and that for more than 10,000 years, this land has been and continues to be home to the Kumeyaay people. We recognize the violent history of colonization in California, and we honor the legacy and the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. Before we start, I wanted to see if there were any announcements. I know that Mary had an announcement, but I didn't see Mary on a screen. Is Mary here?
I am here.
Yay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I do have an announcement. Today is Rainbow Tie-Dye Sunday at Summit. So we're going to have a parking lot activity of getting creative together, tie-dyeing. You bring your own object to tie-dye. I'll have the tie-dyes and the rubber bands and the string, and I can give directions and guidance. We're going to be doing it at 2 different times, at noon and at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the parking lot at Summit. We're going to have shade canopies up. It will be warm, so bring water. And if you feel like coming and having some community time, whether you tie-dye or not, either time from like noon to about 1:30 and then 4 to about 5:30, depending on how late we go. So just let you know, we'll be here. If you need some time in community, you can come tie-dye or you can come watch. That's it.
Thank you, Mary. This morning, we are welcoming someone new to our virtual pulpit. Aunt Li-Anne is a professional storyteller, teacher, teaching artist, and actor who's been active in San Diego for more than 25 years. She loves to explore profound truths in life through story and storytelling for adults, children, and anyone who will listen. She's an instructor at Miracosta Community College, where she's teaching The Power and Joy of Ori Storytelling, a live stream class. She is the state liaison for the National Storytelling Network, the founding secretary for the Storytellers of San Diego. And after a church-hopping childhood and an eclectic but committed membership in many different small Christian churches in her young adult life, she became a member of Palomar Unitarian Universalist Fellowship and has remained there for 18 years. I would also like to give a special acknowledgement to Pam Kerr for recruiting Aunt Li-Anne and finding her and bringing her to us and putting together this service. So thank you so much, Pam, for your help. And we are so glad that all of you have chosen to join us this morning for a time of connection and reflection. We invite you to stay after the service for our community gathering, where you'll have a chance to give feedback to the minister or the speaker, or share a joy or concern with the larger group. And now, to enter into our real service, let us light our chalice with these words from Melanie Davis: "If there were ever a time for a candle in the darkness, this would be it. Using a spark of hope, kindle the flame of love, ignite the light of peace, and feed the flame of justice." And now please join me while muted with our UU hymn, sung in both Spanish and English to reflect the multicultural region, multilingual culture of our region, excuse me.
De todos bajo el gran sol, sur esperanza, fe, amor, verdad y belleza cantando de cada tierra, cada voz.
Please join me while staying muted with our UU affirmation. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. And now, for this morning's Time for All Ages, I would like to introduce to you Aunt Li-Anne. Good morning, Aunt Li-Anne.
Good morning. Oh, I'm so excited. I want to just thank all of you for inviting me and for Mary Carter Vale for letting me have this Time for All Ages. I've been assured that there are some kids out there, but I can't wait to tell this story to all the ages. This actually comes from Japan, and it's a story of two frogs, one who was from Osaka and one who was from Kyoto. And it just so happened that both of them decided to go to the next biggest city up over the hill. The one from Kyoto was headed to Osaka, and the one from Osaka was headed to Kyoto. They couldn't wait to see a different area, to travel and expand their minds. They were very, very unusual little frogs. So off the one went from Kyoto, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. And it had been hopping and ribbiting for quite a long time and was not yet to the top of the hill. He began to think, oh my gosh, maybe this is too much effort. What if Osaka is just like Kyoto? What if I don't learn anything new? What if it isn't worth my time? And at the same time, there was the one hopping from Osaka. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. What if Kyoto is horrible? What if it is just the same? What if I don't learn anything? And when they got to the top of the hill, they saw each other. Now, the one from Kyoto said, oh, where are you headed? And the one from Osaka at the same time said, where are you headed? And when they discovered that they had had the same doubts and that they were headed to each other's city, they got very excited. You know, we could help each other out. If we wanted to, we could stand on our back legs if we held on to each other. And then we could see the city down the hill that we were headed to. And so they did. They stood up on their back legs and they stretched up as high as they could. But those silly frogs did not remember that their eyes were not on the front of their head, but back here. So when they stretched as high as they could, they were not looking forward to the city they were headed to. They were looking back to the cities they had come from. Oh no, Osaka is just like Kyoto. Oh dear, Kyoto is just like Osaka. And they, very depressed, got back down, turned back home, and hopped all the way to the cities they had come from, never knowing that Osaka and Kyoto are as different as two cities may be, and how much they might have learned if they had been able to get there. Now those frogs, they screwed up, didn't they? They gave up early. They got some bad information and they just settled for that first impression. So as you go through your life, remember that things are not always as they seem, that finding the truth sometimes takes a lot of effort. And go, investigate, find out for yourself. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Aunt Li-Anne. That was fun. This morning, two brief readings. The first is called Living on Borrowed Time by Jack Mendelson. The more we try to say precisely what is in our hearts, the more we find that we are speaking for multitudes of strangers the world over. The deeper we get down to our own fundamentals, the more deeply we represent those other people. Like all human beings, I live on borrowed time. I never know when my time will run out, but I do know that it will run out. I have no way of knowing what tragedies will befall me at the next step, the next ring of the telephone, the next rising of the sun. My notion of spiritual fulfillment is learning how to accept this fate with a ringing affirmation of all that makes life worth living. The liberal spirit is my inspiration to be a creative, cooperative human being, in spite of the fact that life may crush me at any moment and death may blot me out. As a skeptic about such matters, I cannot comfort myself with supernatural promises. I know that human existence contains irreducible elements of tragedy and incompleteness. I know that I can never really comprehend the totality of things. I am finite. For me, the fundamental question of life is not why, but how. How shall I live while I live? This is the bedrock question. In answering it, it matters very much what I believe. And from the Reverend Paige Getty of the UU Congregation of Columbia, Maryland, we are privileged to be free, to continually search for truth and meaning, to wrestle freely with truth and meaning. This privilege calls us not to be isolated and self-centered, believing that our single perspective trumps all others, but to be open to the great mysteries of truth and meaning that life offers.
an ocean in my soul.
Summit is a fellowship supported entirely by the voluntary generosity of our members and friends. And we greatly appreciate our faithful pledgers who continue to keep up their monthly contributions. We would be most grateful if you would consider making a contribution today to our virtual plate. We make it easier than ever to contribute. The link can be found in the chat box. It will take you directly to the donation location. And now we will gratefully accept your generous donations while we listen to Barbara again. Good morning again, Barbara.
Good morning again. And this is a piece of music that's unusual in that it actually has a story that goes along with it. It's called The Glacial Mermaid, and it's by Japanese composer Naoko Ikeda, who does a lot of her music for piano students. And this is about someone in a land of snow and ice hearing a voice coming from a statue of a mermaid, and the mermaid is dreaming of melting and becoming part of the real sea.
Once again this morning, I'd like to welcome Aunt Li-Anne.
Thanks, Josh. Oh, that was beautiful. I could see the mermaid, Barbara. Beautiful. I love story and storytelling. Like Josh said in my bio, I think these are ways that we can investigate really profound truths. And there's always something rich and under the surface in the symbolism that I believe can really help us discover things for ourselves. People always say about us as UUs that we just believe whatever we want, right? But you know that's not true. We know that's not true. We can't just believe whatever we want. Based on our fourth principle, we have a responsibility to find out about truth and meaning. We have to believe what we must. In the story today, I'm going to share a folk tale that comes from, well, there's a version of it that is said to come from somewhere along the shores of Lake Michigan. And there's another version that says it comes from Celtic Ireland. And there's even some evidence of one that came from Africa. But my favorite version is one that's supposed to have happened in Santee back when it was a village. There was a young couple very much in love, Joe and Nina, and they'd been married about a year when a plague came to their village. And people were dying, whole households, whole families, and Joe and Nina were struck down as well. But after a few days, Nina began to feel better, to start her recovery, and Joe did not. He kept spiraling down and down until she was very much afraid that she was going to lose him. And so she tried to consult any of the local healers. Everyone had tried all they could. She thought back to her grandmother, who had said when she was a little girl, her grandmother had a ritual where they would gather certain herbs together under a full moon. And so Nina went out into the night under a full moon, gathered those herbs together, put them down and lit them on fire. And as the smoke was rising from those herbs, she called out, any spirits, benevolent spirits or gods, or any who can help me, please tell me what I must do to save my beloved. And the flame went out like that. And as the smoke was rising under that full moon, she saw something caught her eye, a flash of red. And when she looked down, she could see a tiny little fox in the moonlight with a clearly injured paw. And she didn't stop to think. She scooped the burnt herbs up out of that fire, where the fire had been, and put them around the paw. And she took a bandage by tearing her own shawl and wrapped it up and said, there you go. You'll feel better soon. And to her amazement, and because it's a story, the fox answered her back. Because of your kindness, I can lead you to where we think the healing waters are that would save your beloved. And just like that, the fox took off running. And Nina, she scrambled to keep up, but she's still recovering from her illness, and she had trouble running. She tried to keep the fox in her sight as much as she could until they were way up in the mountains, and trees were all around. And she said, stop, please stop. I can't go any further. I must rest. And for the rest of the night, she and the fox slept curled up together. And in the morning, the fox was gone. Nina got up and she started to search by herself, and she could see where a riverbed had been. She got to the riverbed and it was dry. And she sat down and she just started to weep. She didn't think she could go on, but she heard a little voice. And when she looked up, there was the fox again. You mustn't give up, Nina. You mustn't give up. Listen, listen, and you will find what you're seeking for. And then the fox disappeared again. So she got up and she searched, and soon she could hear something. It sounded like 100 beautiful voices. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Now, you may wonder how they knew Leonard Cohen at that time in that place, but I swear that is what it sounded like. And she realized, Mina realized that the sound was coming from underneath her feet. And so she found a sharp stick and she began to dig and dig and dig. And as she did, along with the singing, she could hear voices saying, set us free, and we will heal you. And she got down to where she hit water, and a geyser of water came up and soaked her from head to toe, and she felt strong and healthy again. But how to take it back to Joe? And that's when she noticed that the dirt she had been digging was clay, red clay, the same color as the fox. And so she gathered the clay and she made a large vessel out of it. And then she put it on a rock, and all the next day, she watched it bake in the sun. And then she filled it with the healing water and carried that jug all the way back down to her village. But when she got there, everyone came out and they were gaunt and their eyes were sad. And finally, her neighbor said, "It's good you got back to say goodbye, but Joe will not last the day." She hurried inside, and there was her husband. He looked dead already. He was barely breathing. She thought she could hear the death rattle in his lungs. And she took her finger and she dipped it into the vessel and she put the water on his lips. And he took a deep breath and opened his eyes and grabbed that jug and drank the water and stood up healthy and strong. And then the two of them went to their neighbors and they gave them the healing water until there was no trace of plague left in that village. And then they set the jug down and it disintegrated, disappeared into the earth. And they say that there was never again a plague that hit that village. And so it grew strong and well. And that's the story of the healing waters. Now, what does that have to do with the search for meaning and truth? Well, I think there's a lot in there, and I'm just going to touch on a few things. When Mina starts her quest, she reaches back for knowledge of the ancestors, of her grandmother. I think that we can look to our sources and see that there is so much knowledge there for us to start with. And then she asks for help. And then she helps another. Sometimes I think when we are caught up in our search for meaning, we forget that there are others along the way that we can help, and maybe they will help us understand as well. And then she has to search and search, even after she feels like giving up. And it's hard work. And she has to search some more. And it isn't enough just to have that truth, that meaning, that healing for ourselves. We need to find a way and do the work to bring it back to those we love and to our wider community. And that are some of the things that I think we can learn from that folktale. I'll be interested to hear what all of you think after. I can be here for a little bit after to hear that. Thank you very much for having me today.
and change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Thank you, Aunt Li-Anne. That was very interesting, and I hope everyone can stay after for our community gathering so we can have a chat with Aunt Li-Anne about storytelling and her themes. I'd also like to invite everyone back for next week when Reverend Luna Broussard will be joining us. We hope everyone can be on screens for that, and I expect us to be back in the sanctuary for that as well. This morning's chalice extinguishing words come from Eric Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed. The purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown, in ourselves, in one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all. If you want to sing this morning's closing circle song while muted, please feel free.